Are you saying your whole country is below the timberline?
Are you saying that your whole country is wrapped in plastic?
Okay,
and,
welcome to this final Twin Peaks episode of the Fargonauts. Let that sit
It's
with you
here.
for a bit.
Yep. I'm
I've been
not mentally prepared
I've been
for
sitting
any
with
of it.
it, man. I don't know, I don't know how to. There will be a part of me at some time that will think, oh, Twin Peaks with the boys. Oh wait,
Oh,
Cold ones for Twin Peaks, dude. Cold ones for Twin Peaks.
if
cold
you
ones for
recall,
TP. Yeah.
we watched episode 17 last time called "The Past
Yeah, we did.
Dictates the Future." Do you remember that episode at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be weird if we didn't watch episode 17 last time.
Well, what do you remember about it? So we can kind of refresh our memories to going into this next episode. What do you recall?
Coop was doing shit, dude.
I have it pulled up here. We have the first scene is
Was it?
is Gordon talking to Tammy and Albert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after
After the
after
incident
all
with
the
He lays down
Diane
some-
Palpa stuff.
Some big dick knowledge there for sure.
Yeah, a lot of knowledge being dropped down on these guys. And then another big thing that we kind of got hung up on was this going back to the giant's dream in the dream world, or in this
It's
weird
Dream Soul.
Yeah, we saw his dream being projected onto the screen, and Doppelkoop gets transported to Twin Peaks police station, right? And then we had that big room that had a floating head of Major Briggs, and we just talked about that, what that meant and everything there. So I remember that vividly because I know that was a big part. And then we had we had another kind of interesting conversation about Philip Jeffries, the meaning behind how he communicates and the infinity symbol, and finding that space-time continuum, essentially sending Cooper back to when, like, Laura was, like, the night that she was going to be killed, because then we find him back in time witnessing her talking to James on his bike, and then gives the best, like, middle finger to James.
Oh yeah. How about this, James?
How about this,
What do you
James?
think about this? Fucking best moment. Best moment Twin Peaks.
And then James rides off, and what happens after that is that what we hoped to see was, Coop leading her away from her potential death and taking her into the forest, but then we jump to, like, the present where, Judy's getting pissed, like, she's screaming.
Yeah.
And that was a freaky moment. And
Then it's like she kind of transcends space-time to go back and correct shit.
yes, so
There's all kinds of interplay there with at least the three parties of Dale, Laura, and Judy, or Sarah, whatever you want to call it, just all having a hand in this weird timey soup.
yep, and that's kind of where I'm going to leave it going into this next episode, because that's kind of the big cliffhanger, because at the end of that, like, she gets raptured or taken away by, assumedly, like, you'd think Judy just interrupted that.
I assume she just puts her
fateful-
back where she's supposed to be. You know what I mean? To get fucking murked.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll leave it with that question lingering there, and let's get into it, boys.
One more Badalamenti. What?
Yeah.
We did it.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What a show, guys. What a show.
Look at that. Look how short that credits was.
Cast list
like,
is?
cast
Yeah,
list,
that
yeah.
cast list was pretty quick there.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I'm
What?
just curious. I'm just curious, Eric. Can you speak
Broad
to
show.
what you're feeling and thinking right now? Like, what's your reaction at this moment?
What?
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Tell
of
me more.
what?
A lot
Yeah.
of what?
Well, tell me more, please. Like, let's dig into it.
Sound design by David Lynch. Nice.
I've seen that a lot actually in this series.
Uh,
Just start. Let's ask some questions. What's a question that is on your mind?
dude, I don't know, dude. The whole thing's a question.
So
Yeah,
what
it is.
as we look back from the beginning, it's been revolving around Laura Palmer, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And
Poor
we've
Almer. Yep.
been wanting Dale to find some kind of meaning behind her death, or maybe like a I don't know, a solution, or some kind of like being a savior of some kind, or
Right.
helping her, or finding her, or doing something, right? Because Leland in this episode says that to him, saying like, "Find Laura."
Yeah.
So we know this has been all about Laura and finding something about her, like finding the real her, or do you guys recall what this episode was called?
No.
No.
It's called "What Is Your Name?"
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
And so
Yeah.
throughout this
He asks that
episode,
at
we
least
have
twice.
we have a lot of changing of names, right? So we know
Yes.
full well that once Diane and Cooper, as we know them from the previous episode, when they said goodbye to all the people that they loved, that was kind of like the happier, I guess, ending to like saying goodbye to all the Twin Peaks people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we jump to them not even knowing their real name. Like, we know Cooper somehow traveled to this other world in this episode, but he's not. He thinks he's Cooper, but everybody else would know him by Richard.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So everybody has a different name,
Yep.
and it was like,
Seems like he hopped over to like a different
do you think?
timeline or different reality.
Yeah. Do
However you
you
want to
think?
phrase it. Yeah. There's some change in venue reality. I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like it was more of a dominion of Judy, right? Everybody seemed hostile,
Mm-hmm.
and everything seemed off,
Oh, maybe, yeah.
and like almost dreamlike, and they're like all walking through their lives just kind of monotone and not really,
It's like
Yeah.
a reality where she already has her foothold.
yeah.
And
Everybody
everything.
has a pain and sorrow kind of affect to them.
Or the whole world has like it's like the whole world is steeped at like 25% or like more or whatever.
Just Judy's world, and we're just living in it, dude.
Because like the things that stood out to me in that diner were that couple that just like no matter what was happening, whether it was the waitress being sexually assaulted, I mean, like or not sexually assaulted, but you know what I mean, like
Yes,
they're getting very handsy with her, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
or people being fucking kicked in the groin,
That was
shot
assault.
in the
Yeah.
foot, all this shit. They just sat there and they're like, oh wow, and kept eating.
Right.
And the waitress Christy gave off a very hostile vibe.
Dude.
Everything that was happening was like, yeah,
Texas caviar, corn, fucking Garmin bows, fucking like cream corn ass shit, dude.
oh god damn it, Eric, stop! Don't add more to this. Ugh. But
It's
yeah,
a corn-based society.
it is.
So is there a
Yeah.
significance to "What Is Your Name" as a title, you think?
It's yeah. What is
What?
your name? I think is a significance of just like it's a complete questioning of who you are. I think in this aspect
And
of who they are.
why do you think Cooper maybe like his last thing he said was what year is it? Right? Like what do you think the
Yeah,
What
significance
year
of
is
that
this?
is?
'cause I think in his mind, the only explanation is that they ended up further along in time or something at a different point in time than they were. You remember fucking Mike fucking says, is this the past or is it the future? So
Mhm.
maybe in his mind is like, are we in the future? Or,
Mm.
He
but that doesn't
oh
explain necessarily them going all by different names necessarily.
well. So
I don't know.
here, yeah, like I'm just pointing out a few things that I'm remembering myself. Mike asked that before in the red room. We saw
Yeah,
what I interpret as like Judy's intervention when Laura starts screaming and she gets like ripped out of the scene.
Right.
yeah,
That is a different event than her just disappearing. So maybe by like her just disappearing behind Dale. So maybe once she disappears behind him in the forest, that's like the first ripple. And so by the time that Dale is in the red room and talking to Mike, Mike's already aware that something is off. So he's questioning like,
right.
is it
Oh yeah,
future? Is it past? Uh, and
like
then
when is this?
yeah, and then by the time
Because as we know, the like the well, not know, but I guess suspect the lodge and red room is and stuff is kind of outside of space and time, right?
Yeah, we can
you would
see Cooper
think
kind of
so.
he manipulated the red room a
So
little bit before he exited.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like, is he? So to Mike, it's not like time's not maybe not linear to him. So
Yeah, I doubt it.
it's like, are you here? Like, is this like past you or is this like a future you? Is this the like? And he doesn't know for some
Because
reason or another.
yeah, like this. Oh God, yeah. I mean, he could be asked. Yeah, he could be. Oh, but
Because maybe where Dale goes back and tries to save Laura, maybe that's the point or a point or like the point where the timeline split, maybe because he went back and interfered, and maybe that's where we get this whatever, and she gets fucking
well,
yeeted into the fucking other
reg-
timeline or something. I don't know.
regardless of what happens in this episode or even last episode, like what definitively happens in like I would say the canon timeline of Twin Peaks is that on the night that Laura Palmer was murdered, she left, and we saw this I think last episode.
Yep.
She left James's company,
Yep,
went into the woods, and in the
yep,
normal canon timeline, met up with Jock and Leo. But regardless,
yep,
she went into the woods. So that's
yep,
like, yeah, the point, I guess, where it can split. It's either she goes and meets Jock and Leo, or Dale's able to like intercept her and be like, "Hey, come with me." Um, and then
So
from so that's like one branching point,
sure.
right?
Hmm.
And then once she's met up with Dale, there's another set of like possibilities. Either Dale leads her to somewhere other than where she would end up, right? Being wrapped in plastic, or what we see happen. Judy is able to say, you're not messing with my steez," and just shunts Laura to somewhere other than where she is with Dale at that moment. Um, and yeah, I don't know when we can definitively like I don't. There's a lot we can't definitively say, but like it's hard to pin down a lot of this, but it seems very clear that like all of this is kind of happening concurrently until Dale leaves the red room and meets up with Diane because that's him like leaving this like extra dimensional pocket and being back at Twin Peaks. Because that the only reason I'm saying that I feel like that is like present day, Tyler, is that Diane that we are seeing in this episode is the same Diane that we saw previously, where the last time in time and space, God, it's so weird to have to pin this down. The last place that we saw that Diane with the red hair and the black and white fingernails in time and space was in the present, like 2019, whatever, in Twin Peaks at the sheriff station with Dale and everybody else. And then Dale, Gordon, Diane, like, entered that space and went to the. So I feel like he got popped. He popped out of the red room, and she's there waiting for him in present day. And then they get in the car and they're like, "All right, we got to drive to this spot, cross over, and do this thing to try and trap Judy." But Judy is playing fucking 4D chess and doing counter moves against counter moves, and who knows?
Right.
I think we need to go deeper. I think we need to we need to understand, like, we need to draw some like definitive like barriers here. Like, let's think of the original series, Twin Peaks. Let's call that reality, right? That's the reality, is Twin Peaks,
Sure.
where Laura died, was killed by Bob in manifesting himself inside Leland. And then what got introduced, throughout the show was a dream theory, and who's the dreamer. And that's something that I've been thinking about, like, is what we just watched, not, relying on the stuff that came before this, like Fire Walk with Me and things like that in the original series. Was this some kind of someone's dream about Twin Peaks? Was this somebody's, like,
Right.
understanding of events that occurred in Twin Peaks? So all the events happened. Leland killed his daughter and killed Maddie and all these other people. And Bob,
Sarah was going around being like under some like malaise. Yeah.
So there's a dream offshoot of reality, and then we go even deeper into that, where when you're inside this dream, there can be portals. I mean, we've seen gaps open up. We've seen the broad shows in the darkness, floating around.
Also,
We've seen all these things that, can project into another wormhole, into another part of the dream. The giant obviously dreamed about Laura going to, Earth, and Bob being vomited up through Garmonbosia by Judy. Could another dream exist where Cooper, the reality Cooper, is inside the dream? Him and Diane cross over into another person's dream, and that dream
Possibly.
could have been Judy's dream, and inside Judy's dream is Judy's passions, by like capturing that idea. I mean, when the giant dreams, when the giant dreamt about Laura, or that embodiment of Laura as we know her in reality, we just see a face. We don't know a name. What is the name? Like, what is your name? It shouldn't matter, because we know that the face of Laura always shows itself to us at the beginning of each episode. So the giant doesn't think of names. It thinks of a persona, it thinks of a face, and is projected.
There's like a core ideal.
Yeah, there's a core ideal in everything. So the Judy raptures Laura wherever she is and brings her into her own dream, but she's not Laura as we know her in those dreams. She's this other person.
Yep.
But it's still the same kind of person. But then we hear at the very end of this, we hear Sarah Palmer call.
Yeah.
Laura. Like, that's like the final button.
It's that very specific fucking like the audio clip from the first episode 1. And it speaks very strongly that we hear Sarah's voice, that it's distorted, that the lighting kind of like happens in the way that it does at that button. It and God, A plus 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 no S rank, triple S ultra rare, um, fucking scream at the end, like
Yeah.
ugh.
Well, I think it's a
I always had this fun idea just
sure.
of myself that that dreams were like you peeking into other like other like worlds in the multiverse kind of.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So like maybe that's a way to look at it too.
So, yeah, like it's I was kind of talking to you guys about this a little bit, but like just talking about what seems to be the general consensus of what people take away from this show at this point.
Mhm.
If you don't go down too many rabbit holes and kind of just take things at a surface level, it seems like Dale in what we call reality, season the original stuff, goes into the Red Room, gets taken over or whatever, and Doppelkoop comes out, and regular Coop is in the Red Room.
For 25
From
years,
there,
he's like in a stasis mode.
well, yes and no. Yeah. So like Mr. C goes on continuing to do his stuff for a while. He tries to like impersonate or live as Dale to like be able to go visit Audrey, to visit Diane, to throw off the scent of Gordon, etc. And then he just disappears. Real, actual Dale in the Red Room is just like fucking in the wind. And he like is, who's to say, but at some point in his existence outside of regular reality, he starts to like travel and ends up where he ends up in that like purple space with that big ocean and all these things. And so at some point, what we see, I think it's the first thing that we see in episode 1 of The Return, is the black and white scene between Dale and the fireman, where the fireman's like, remember the sounds. Remember Dale and Linda and Richard. Remember two birds with one stone. Remember this number. Like it's set. He's very much laying out the key.
That's exactly from the original
Yeah.
series. Like, I know who the killer is,
Mm-hmm.
but I need
And
to
it's the giant
put
who does
that
it too.
together. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Gives
So
him
that's
all
why
these like
that's why I
esoteric
think
clues.
it's not really the reality like in the original series. That's why I'm kind of going deep in that kind of idea, because
Yeah.
it's
So
like it's similar yet very different, same
in
themes and methods, like saying the giant saying those things like here's the killer, my arms bend back, and like all these like, mystical kind of
mhm.
yeah, things that he
I
had to
think
piece together throughout the series, and then he's given more in this series.
I think that what David Lynch is doing with what we're talking about for like the dream and who is the dreamer, if we do live inside a dream, is the dream of the return as a whole the world's perception of how we carry the memories of Twin Peaks in our minds,
Right.
with things like you're talking about, Tyler, the giant just like laying out esoteric clues. When we go back to Twin Peaks, what's happening in Twin Peaks? Well, Nadine, she sure is up to her antics, and she's fucking watching crazy old Dr. Jacoby and Ed and yeah, like,
So here, okay,
and then
I got this. I totally
yeah.
got this. Okay,
Okay, love
okay.
it.
Here's what I'm thinking, and this is just hitting me all at once right now. In our last episode, when like we discussed when Cooper went to go talk to Philip Jeffries, I need you to find Laura. So Philip Jeffries found her in that little infinity symbol, right? Infinity means that like an infinite loop, infinite.
Yeah.
Things happening concurrently, all together, all at once, infinitely, forever. in
Mhm.
perpetuity, whatever. So what Philip Jeffries does, he inverts the infinity, and then the ball moves back. That to me references that, yes, that's Laura, as Cooper knows it. But when he flipped it, it became what was her name in
Very
this
Page.
Carrie Page. That's Carrie Page. Like that ball like maneuvered back, but as Cooper knows it's Laura. But as Philip Jeffries realizes, like, oh, that's that's the face I know, or that's whatever. But he doesn't know it's Carrie
Oh,
Page.
holy
So
shit, dude.
hold on.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But once we get to this moment at the very end of the episode, where he's like, "What year is it?" Right? They're obviously not in the right year. Cooper doesn't know what year it is.
Mhm.
He is wanting to go back to that black and white, thing from the last episode where he grabbed Laura from the darkness and brought her, away.
Mhm.
Because he was hoping that that would save the day. That would save all this from happening
Yeah.
and
Yep.
destroy Judy with one stone, or everything. Save Laura, kill Judy. But what that did was just cause a infinite time loop where now the events of the original series are going to take place again, because what we heard at the very end was that Laura, that was
Mhm.
obviously a beckoning out from Sarah Palmer, wondering where her kid is and realizing that her
Mhm.
kid is dead. So his mission was futile. Like the perpetuating cycle of death of this Laura character or whoever, what is your name, person, is going to keep happening. And Cooper is going to go through this infinite battle, I think, with Judy
Yeah,
until the
yeah.
end of time. Because that's like
Very.
that infinite loop that we thought of as an 8. You
Death
see it
and
as an 8.
rebirth.
Death, rebirth, the whole cycle continues infinitely. It's
That
just gonna
is.
it's gonna keep happening, and Cooper's gonna be that mystical warrior that
Which
tries to keep Judy at bay by helping anybody that has that Laura Palmer essence, or that face, I guess.
right.
So if it is
Which
Carrie Page, if it is Laura Palmer, if it is blah blah blah, whoever it
it
is, he's gonna have to help all different infinite versions of that person.
and it could explain the different names too, as it's a death and rebirth thing, right? Like it's you know they're
Well, that's what I think the main message of the story is Cooper is this embodiment of love, insight, happiness, and Judy is this, you know, perfect idea of fear, power,
yeah,
and ugliness.
it's an eternal struggle.
So
The
the eternal
eternal
struggle
struggle.
is Judy always being prevalent in whatever reality. Cooper is going to be that mystic warrior that goes through all these realities and tries to
Yeah,
combat the idea of, like, okay, you did kill Laura Palmer in my original reality, but I'm going to rescue every other version of Laura Palmer, whether it be Carrie Page, whether it be whoever else, throughout
right.
the infinite multiverses that are out there.
Multiverse.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna I'm gonna stick it to you where it hurts. I'm gonna try to rescue every single one of them. I mean, that's kind of what I feel. I don't know if that's true, if there's any basis to that, but it makes sense because of that infinite kind of motif that's been happening.
interesting. I like that.
It gives it some room to, like, live on, right? Because we know that, we can't change the past. We can't change what happened to Laura. But this Cooper can now manipulate the Red Room to go where he wants to go. He has to change his name. I mean, he can always know that this is his struggle now. Like, he replaced himself. He knew what he had to do was rip off a piece of his hair, make another tulpa, call it Dougie, throw it into the dream reality of Twin Peaks, where all of his friends exist and he has a family. So there's a version of him that is now alive and well in this world where Laura Palmer did die, But now this version of him is destined to keep doing what he's doing and being this mystical warrior. He's never going to go back home. He always has to fight this never-ending battle.
The fight never ends.
Which I think is a kind of cool send-off for Dale Cooper. He's just like,
oh yeah,
this is me. I'm going to do what I can to fight this evil.
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of people have kind of like ended up at that general idea of a time loop. Maybe not in the same ways that you're talking about, but a lot of people are like, yeah, it seems like some people say he asks, what year is this? Not because he's lost or he's like confused about what's going on, but the opposite. Like, he doesn't care what year it is. He just wants to know, like, he just needs that piece of information so that he can become regular Dale and start like operating and doing his thing.
So now, do you think now that the Carrie Page character realizes what the dream is from hearing her distant mother's, cry out for Laura, right? We know that
we don't.
Oh, like that.
We know
like that awakened.
That awakens something
transferal
in her, because that's why she's remembering the horrors of what happened, right? That's obviously what she's screaming about, because that is the only logical step.
Clearly, Dale doesn't hear that. Otherwise, he would have reacted to it too, because he fucking whips around when she starts screaming. Because he's not like, oh, she's screaming because of this. She was the only one to hear that.
The whole time, if you look back at, I'm gonna jump through here because we're kind of just we're missing a lot of like what we've been talking about. But so when they get here, we get this version of Carrie Page just like blinking very lazily, very like maybe she's in a meditative trance, or like she's kind of acting like Dougie, where she's taking it all in, she's doing the processes. But she eventually,
Carrie is very much like a Dougie-esque.
She eventually comes to terms with where she is, and she's like blinking and like finally realizing something, and she hears the call out, Laura.
I almost felt like she was acting this like sequence as if she was being shot in reverse, like she was in the Red Room, like with the way that she was blinking slowly and looking around and stuff. It seemed like she was like giving that type of performance.
That's always a big takeaway when you know somebody's in reverse, when they blink reverse, and it's like, oh, this person's in reverse.
I mean, but clearly the footage was in like normal time.
Mm-hmm.
You could see from the motion of her hair and wind that it was not reversed footage, but it's like she was performing as if the camera would have been doing that.
So I do think that this is like a triggering moment for her, because up until this point, this was Carrie Page, right? This was
right.
This person had a life, talking in a southern accent and everything like that. And now this triggered something in her that she's now remembering. So I'm thinking when the fireman dreamt about the Laura as we know her, there's threads that can connect those consciousnesses to the alternate versions of them throughout the universe.
Through the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it pulled...
You had your core self, and
it pulled her... It essentially seems like it pulled her consciousness from when she got killed to then, right? It's basically her screaming like she was screaming when we heard her last, when assumedly she got killed. To me, anyway, like it seems like they just pulled it once all that consciousness found a home. Essentially, it was brought there, kind of like I assume how maybe Dale's was brought into Richard, right?
Right,
or something.
I think it's a amalgamation of Richard and Cooper, possibly too.
Cooper, yep. Yeah,
because he's embodying this version of himself, where the Cooper right now is embodied Richard. That's why, like, there's this weird thing when we were watching, Diane and this Cooper, make love and stuff. They were she was grabbing
And then
onto
we
his
saw
face.
the other Diane pop
Careful.
out for a second.
Careful.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as careful as possible, but like, you see
We
her
don't want to watch him
grab
playing
and like
video games.
cover his face, right? Like she was
Yeah.
trying to remember what this person looked like. Because
Yeah.
this is not Diane. This now is another version of a Diane.
Well, I think she, like it seems
Well,
like
remember we
maybe
saw double Diane, right?
she was trying to specifically forget who this was. So then the next morning she's like, I don't remember who you are because I fucking chose that because anything else was way too traumatic for me.
Or maybe that was her consciousness leaving this person. Like that was her last thing as this person, and then she left essentially.
Because maybe
And then-
that was another triggering moment. Because the
literally
last
and
time
metaphorically.
Diane made love to this person, it was Doppelkoop. As we know from watching the show, she was brutally sexually assaulted by that version. So maybe that was a triggering moment that now she had to write this.
She had to separate herself mentally, spiritually, like physically. She's not there anymore. She's
not there. That's
Diane,
how we know her from the original series. Like she's non-existent. She's a disembodied
that's a very good
person.
Point. So I just want to bring up something that when you started talking about the idea of like Philip Jeffries doing the inversion and sending him on this time loop, man, I love the idea that Philip Jeffries over these 25 years becoming the tea kettle has been like a double, I don't know what you want to call it, a double, triple sleeper agent. He goes to Buenos Aires to investigate something about Judy, gets bipped, bopped, ends up somewhere outside of normal time and space, and like over time becomes a teapot and is working that whole time to communicate with people like Major Briggs to like coordinate, Mr. C to like throw him off the scent, trick him, and then when the time comes, give Dale this like way to combat Judy by being like, all right, motherfucker, we're flipping the script. We're sending you to the opposite world where you're gonna beat Richard. Someone else is gonna, like, everything's gonna be different, but you're gonna have the perfect opportunity to be where you need to be be able to do whatever you need to do whenever that time comes.
Right. So I think that's where maybe it makes sense. Where he couldn't really see her at first, but he had to invert reality to see Carrie Page because it's the same face, it's the same, life signature, let's say, because when he was looking for Laura Palmer, it's like, obviously she's dead, so I'm not going to find her. But then he flips the script, he finds the version of her, and then sends him there.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to point out to you guys that is a fact, a hard, cold fact that will just lead to more questions. In the final scene here, when Dale and Carrie, we'll call her, go to the door.
Richard.
Yeah, Richard and Carrie, absolutely. And I also, since you pointed it out, I hadn't thought about it, but I love the idea of Carrie being like a Dougie analog, where she is like
Carrie, Dougie.
She's more, the naming convention, but she's a bit more verbose than Dougie, but like she is a bit detached and like weird,
aloof.
But when they go to the door, they speak to a person, and this is the second time in my memory that Dale asks the question this episode, "What is your name?" And she responds, "My name is Alice Tremont." Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the name of the old lady that Donna delivered the Meals on Wheels to in season 1, I believe, whatever season that was. So when, this is where it gets weird. That old lady in when Donna went to visit her identified herself as Mrs. Tremont, and she had her grandson, right?
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
little Lynchy boy.
Little Lynch.
Yep, little old Lynchy. So, in '87, when Chet Desmond went to investigate, or no, in '88, when Chet Desmond went to investigate Teresa Banks's death and went to the
Uh-huh.
Fat Trout Trailer Park, there was an old woman living with her quote unquote grandson at the time of Teresa Banks's death. They went by the name Chalfont. And that is the name that Alice Tremond, this lady here, gives of who she got the house from. So we're led to believe that like chronologically here, Teresa Banks, at the time of her death, there was Mrs. Chalfont living with her grandson in the Fat Trout Trailer Park.
Yeah.
Later on, she's Mrs. Tremond and living in Twin Peaks with her grandson. And we also see them a little bit in Fire Walk with Me in like the convenience store. It's kind of made clear that they're lodge spirits of some kind or something related.
I mean, they eat Garmonbozia. They.
Yeah. Well, she rejects it. She's like, "Is that creamed corn on my plate? I specifically asked for no creamed corn." So she has kicked the habit.
That boy's eating it though. He's jumping around at all these parking lot motels and just chowing down on that stuff.
Yeah, it is to me that almost kind of reads like a way that they were able to like retroactively tie in that maybe Mrs. Tremond and her grandson are some way of connecting like Judy and Bob, where Mrs. Tremond is like the matriarchal figure, and Bob being an offspring of hers in some way, with Pierre Tremond being her grandson, and so she's present for the death of Teresa Banks. She's present somehow for the death or events of Laura Palmer, and then these names like reoccurring in the return.
And you gotta wonder why does Alice Tremond own this house, and why does the Chalfonts own this specific house?
Who's she talking to?
And it makes me think, like, then is it like, is this is this where the lodge spirits are born, or is it like that it's a beacon for those places? Is it, as we know, like seemingly Judy took up residence with fucking Sarah Palmer there at fucking the house too. Is this like the familial home, right? Is this like where fucking Judy pumps out her thing? It could even be like, in a way, because did they ever talk about? Did she ever talk about Tremond with Dale at all?
Did ever talk about Tremond with Dale?
Fucking what's her fuck?
Donna?
Yeah.
I think, gosh, Eric, I think that part of me wants to say yes. I think that there was a time when Donna may have mentioned, when she was talking about like Harold or something related, because Harold lived next to them. I think she may have mentioned visiting like an old woman and her grandson, but it never went further than that.
So I was gonna say, because that could be an explanation too of what year is it too, because if he knew about Tremond and knew she was an old lady, and then he sees Tremond now and she's a younger woman, it could occur to him that this is a different time.
It's certainly possible. I don't know. So,
but there's something about the house and the lodge spirits having Chalfont or whatever and Tremond, and is this like, I don't know, it makes me think it's like a breeding ground or like a nexus for those lodge spirits, or maybe like going into the dream thing too, is like maybe living in this house, and then like,
Eric, you bring up a really good point. Do you remember that we saw that picture? The picture with the old lady and her grandson, remember? Like,
yep, she was in the picture.
She was in the picture in Laura's house, and she watched it. Like, that was a big moment too. Like, she brought forth some kind of dimensional pull from the lodge. I mean, That picture reminds me of the lodge we see, like the convenience store stairs, like that. Like it reminds me of that like space. That
absolutely,
picture,
100%.
just the picture itself is like that doorway and whatever else. It reminds me of like what you would see in that space where those stairs go to, that are a portal to Philip Jeffries or whatever else. It's like it's a picture of the convenience store, let's just say. So it's like it's another way for them to transport themselves into that house. Somehow that painting got to that house. And I think that was a big thing that Alice was like holding on to also. If I recall, at some point in the series, Alice was like clutching that painting, or like there's some big thing about that painting, and having it be put in
painting?
The painting in Laura's room of the doorway.
Yeah,
where Laura
she
gets
told her to do it, pretty much.
Yeah.
In Fire Walk with Me? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no! She gave Laura was like at the double R or something like that, like outside of the double R.
Yep.
It was just like shoved in her hands. Yeah, and she hung it up in her room or something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
They
and then that
pretty
was
much told her to.
So
that was
that
a
very
way.
Well could be like a fucking little window.
It was, and that's how it
house.
That's how the house got these lodge spirits to like coalesce inside them and like have Bob come through and all these other horrible things happen and manipulate Leland to kill Laura. It was like she was like a harbinger of
sort of
Judy.
Nexus, or my other thought even is like these people that live here, they have the names of these people. Like we were talking about people dreaming and dreamers, or something about this house, and then causing them to dream and take part in what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, is potentially the world of Twin Peaks like a mass dream that a bunch of people have and have different roles in? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Now you're getting deep.
Saint Elsewhere.
Yeah.
That exactly. Mean anything to you? Yeah, like
the Snow Globe.
With how out there and like fucking
it's more like the ending of Men in Black, like the first Men in Black.
Oh no, that was a different one. Yeah.
No,
where he wakes up,
Elsewhere.
Everybody's died.
But
that one,
like, it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Right.
I'd like to just read you guys a little bit of a David Lynch quote here. From his book, Catching the Big Fish, Meditation, Consciousness, and Creativity. Inside every human being. Inside every... I'm not going to read it like that.
No.
Inside every human being is an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness. When you transcend in transcendental meditation, you dive down into that ocean of pure consciousness. You splash into it, and it's bliss. You can vibrate with its bliss. Experiencing pure consciousness enlivens it, expands it. So, and he goes on to, expand upon that. But to me, that that just makes me think of that purple ocean that we saw in those like early episodes of The Return. And with Dale, and not only Dale, but Dale and Major Briggs's head, and like these different things and people like floating around. It just makes me think of that, like diving down into the ocean of pure consciousness, vibrating within it. We saw wasn't it?
Yeah.
Episode
we
1
did see vibration.
We did. We absolutely did. We saw fucking Dale just like in space.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of this can be attributed to dreams, to the idea of like diving down further into whether it be a trance or a dream, or the realization of like what's going on in your mind.
It could be a metaphor for meditation entirely. I mean, if you just think about it, like this Cooper is going to be in a constant state of like battling fear and love forever in eternity, right? Now he is destined to control the Red Room, to like teleport him wherever he needs to go and have these portals open up to him, and travel now with an awoken Laura Palmer that understands her purpose and now this is their meditation. This is what they do on a constant basis to become, I don't know, a pure being, a version of like a Major Briggs. It could mean a whole lot of different metaphors. But yeah, there's a lot to that endless ocean thing, and seeing that version of Major Briggs, say Blue Rose, and seeing him in that dream atrium with the giant there, still dreaming or thinking, right? Yeah, there's just a lot of interpretations you can take from meditations, and I guess what is the mantra? Like this is now Dale's mantra. It's something that he has to constantly do to find oneness. I mean, that was his whole shtick from the beginning, like episode whatever it was, when he talks about Tibet, and that, like, if you want to know Twin Peaks, I would say follow meditation, follow the teachings of like yogis, and deep meditation, and dreams theory, and Tibetan Book of the Dead, or anything like that, and you'll understand concepts in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that could certainly be said about Dale and his general approach to life is he just has this like reverence for so many things. And typically I would associate that word reverence with, if not like royalty, or something like that, at least in a religious aspect. And his observations daily of things like, when in the original series he's talking about when the taste sensation of when ham meets maple syrup, or his drinking of coffee or cherry pie, whittling these little flutes and things, he or Douglas fir or snowshoe rabbit.
Yep.
He just like allows himself to be so open, and I associate a lot of this with meditation and with the spiritual aspects that are typically associated with that. Is like he's like learned how to let his heart just be a child, and to just experience things with no judgment, no hate. Like, if anybody was ever to be somebody that I think would achieve the White Lodge, you'd think it'd be Dale, because of how he like approaches life.
Mm-hmm. But with reverence. I mean, he approaches life with like a journey to seek out new ideas and new understandings of the world he lives in. So he's always going to be like, I found something new about the world I live in. This is amazing. And I think he's just going to keep doing that. Like, he's going to keep finding. Do you guys think
that when he says at the end there, what year is this? He doesn't, like, he's a little bit like, he's trying to figure it out, but he doesn't seem like he's like in despair, right?
No,
it almost seems like he's bordering on like a new mystery. Oh boy.
Oh yes, he's taking this all in. He's understanding now that this isn't the world that he knows, and he's like, wait, what year is it? So he knows, like, the ending definitely made it feel very like foreboding, and like, oh, this mystery is like freaky.
Judy wins, or something.
Like, if you're gonna put a winning, like, well, I guess it's tied.
Yeah,
well, it's tied.
If you're like, yeah.
We have obviously a live
the upper hand
at
the end
Laura
or something.
Here.
Yeah.
So it's 1-0, I would say, or Judy got one. She got one from us.
Love at this point, or like, or we're just after love, where Judy has just gotten the advantage, having done this broadcast of Laura and popping the lights and all this with the scream. But yeah, I mean, it there is a tiny aspect of the ending, the very ending here, this button that we talk about, that is like a hopeful kernel that you're like, you know what? Dale's got it. Like no matter, yeah, and like you're talking about, like he's gonna be this eternal warrior for the side of just like exploration, justice, light.
Because that's what I think
It,
Major Briggs was doing. I totally think Major Briggs was on that same path in the original
mm-hmm.
series. He was being raptured. He was taken away by the Sky People, or whatever you want to call it. He was taken. He was taken from his realm, and he would always come back dressed like he's from a different time. You know, like,
who did he get taken by? Was it aliens? Because you've experienced the final or like the secret history.
yes, I
And just
I
to
think
get into
that's
that a
the
little
that's
bit.
the way of like, yeah, kind of realizing, like, it's not necessarily an alien from another planet, let's say, but it would be an alien from another world, let's say. Like,
But what about
Interdimensional
it's an
alien.
but what
interdimensional
about
thing.
the actual aliens from other worlds and UFOs?
They could be interdimensional beings too. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why Eric, I think you would really benefit from experiencing the secret history where
Yeah.
like
It fleshes
one of the
some
big
stuff out. Yeah, it talks about the Sky
yeah
People, and it talks about Native American cultures and their understanding of nature, and, like, you know, them relating to these things they called Sky People. But also, like, these things happen in specific places too. Like, to them, these occurrences would always happen in a specific part of their land or whatever. So it's very specific.
yeah. And just getting to know like specific history about like Margaret Lanterman being apparently abducted when she was a child, and a number of events that happened to characters we're very familiar with that help like shed some light on what's no I don't even know. It just like it just gives you much greater context for things. But that's a
Great.
conversation for a whole different time.
Yeah, and I would say, leaving this discussion up to everybody else that has been talking about, you know, their theories and their understanding of what this is, dreams, if this is a specific person's dream, if this is Audrey's dream, if this is the fireman's dream, if this is all Laura's dream. That's always an interpretation that fits pretty well, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we see at the beginning of each episode, is the face of Laura, just, and we like dissolve into it. So, like, this could all be her dream. So I mean, there's so many different paths you can take, but the one that I sit well with is the one that I kind of talked about. So I mean, everybody has their own way of interpreting this. It did seem foreboding at first glance if you watch it for the first time. I mean, Braudro, I think you were there, but I think talking through it helped you kind of come to an understanding at some point. Like, what?
Yes.
Like, that was your first takeaway. Like, what?
Oh yeah.
What?
You have to, like, if I didn't have this, you guys as a sounding board, it would just be being like, what? But having the sounding board, I could, was able to talk through the ideas and then gain obviously the insight of you guys too, and then like add that to my little fucking casserole of ideas.
Yeah, that's your headcanon now. That's your, that's your lasagna. That's your layers and layers of.
Yeah, it's my hot dish, dude. My Twin Peaks hot dish.
Sounds delicious. I'd eat that.
That was pretty much a call to action to everybody out there to discuss Twin Peaks. Keep the conversations going. New ideas are always welcome. You know, different opinion or whatever. If you think my opinion's horseshit, let me know.
Yeah, please.
I want to know everybody's ideas of this and what we've seen from the beginning, because I'm trying to put the whole puzzle together, even from the original series and Fire Walk with Me and this one. So I'm trying to relate everything all together and what makes sense thematically, not necessarily what is intended, but like the themes throughout the show and the whole series, how it fits together. So other people might have other takeaways
what
too.
What the fuck was Audrey about?
Yeah.
What the fuck was that? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of question still to ask, but I
So,
think I would like to just finish my piece by saying thank you very much to everybody who's been commenting, watching along with us, watching our episodes, liking, subscribing, anything
Yeah.
like that. Just like it's meant so much to me to share this experience with both Tyler and Eric because like I think previously, like I know that I've had the experience of being like, "Hey, Bracho, I'm watching Twin Peaks," and you're like, "Oh shit, dude, so am I," and we're on different episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're like you said, we're like bouncing ideas off each other or just beaming and so in real time experiencing it with you guys has been really nice. But it's been really great hearing feedback and hearing these like new ideas and if I can ask anything of anybody from this whole thing, please find somebody in your life that you can recommend Twin Peaks to, and
oh
just like
yeah,
let the
Share
virus
that with them.
spread. Yeah,
Share the mind fuck with them, because I mean, like, this may be one of the more self-indulgent series we've done on here, but but like, I mean, people were along for the ride, and I think we kind of knew that. I think we kind of knew people would kind of join us for this. We didn't. I mean, we didn't know, no, but I mean, like, we really wanted to do it, and we knew it was going to be a fucking undertaking. But uh, yeah, it's awesome that so many of you joined us on this ride, um, and contributed to it. Because yeah, like I said, it could have totally just been the three of us talking to nobody about Twin Peaks. Because like I said, it is very self-indulgent of us to be like, hey, we should watch this whole thing and just do it, and we did. But I'm glad we did it, and I had a great time. And yeah, it definitely cleared a lot of not cleared, but because I don't think you can ever clear anything when talking about Twin Peaks entirely.
yeah. It
But
gave you perspective.
it yeah, it gave good perspective and good conversation, obviously, and just yeah, like we were saying, it just helps to have people to talk it through with as you're watching it, because
Mhm.
David Lynch be David Lynch, you know what I mean? So yeah, thank
Yeah,
you guys.
and I'll echo everything has been already said. Thank you for watching. You know, there's not a whole lot of media that's out there right now that's made in the same style like this. A lot of people try to replicate Twin Peaks as like a
Oh yeah,
baseline. Like, I want to make a show. It's going to be like this and Twin Peaks. It's like a hodgepodge of this and Twin Peaks, you know? You know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, everything that you've seen nowadays is just an offshoot of ideas that Twin Peaks brought forth. You know, like it was a cultural phenomenon. And we've talked about that, all these influences that people have taken from Twin Peaks. You can definitely check out that video. But there's countless more. There's comic books. There's, you know, not just TV shows, movies and video games. Like there's a whole video game series based on like a Twin Peaks style town. So yeah, there's a ton of media and a ton of other things that you can look at like, oh, this is definitely heavily influenced by Twin Peaks. So its impact is prevalent, and you won't see a lot of TV shows nowadays that have the same impact. I think. I mean, they can try to hit it, but it's gonna be it's gonna take a long arm to grasp the ideas they were trying to convey in this show. So yeah, I'll just end it there without pining too much on it. We do have to end this eventually. We will be back with more content. Maybe we'll watch more David Lynch things. We could watch Mulholland Drive. We can do whatever. Really, we can take a little break. We can watch some goofy shenanigans. Who knows?
yeah,
But yeah, I hope you stick with us and you know you come along for the journey with our other shows we watch, or you know give us a suggestion of maybe something we haven't even seen, and we'll totally see if it catches our interest, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. But thanks for watching, and goodbye.
hell yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.